Stayed in this haunted house that was built on a graveyard and cemetery. And the scariest, most traumatizing, if you want to call it that, experience that I've had, I was laying in bed, jumped out of my bed, ran through him into the bathroom, curled up on the toilet, and started screaming. Stayed in this house that was built on a graveyard and cemetery.
Legitimately haunted?
Legitimately haunted.
All right, we got to dive into this.
Legit, bro. Like,
hold on, how old are you?
I was at the time, 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old. That was my first experience I'll never forget this experience. So I'm laying in bed on this, you can look up this old place. It's Walker Drive, Fort Meade, near Fort Meade. There's houses there. It's just all built up and torn down. But this all brick house that was connected to another home that if you poke the hole through the wall, you could see the neighbors in the adjacent room. Few 100-square-foot home, very, very small. And my dad would always say if you stood in the front door, you could spit and you'd hit the backyard. It was very small. So as a kid, we would always hear like people running upstairs, footsteps, and my parents would, ignore it. It's just a house creaking or whatever. And these footsteps would start to come down the stairs. You'd hear heavy footsteps just going around upstairs, and they start to go downstairs and they would stop. Sometimes you would hear conversations, but like whispers or like staticky was on a radio station you couldn't tune into all the way. And as a kid, you don't think of it. You just hear stuff. But the scariest, most traumatizing, if you want to call it that, experience that I've had, I was laying in bed, and to this day, I'm paranoid of sleeping on my back because of it. Laying in bed on my back, and something woke me up. And I see a soldier who, at the time, I had no idea what his uniform looked like. It was different than my dad's. I didn't find out later that it was like a old Civil War style uniform. And I see a soldier walk past my doorway. I rub my eyes, put the blankets over my head, rub them some more, and look back down. And now it's not just one, there's soldiers, a line of them, walking, and they would turn to go down the stairs into the main living room space. Maybe 10 soldiers passed by. The last soldier, he got in my doorway, turned, looked, and started to walk to my room towards me. Jumped out of my bed, ran through him into the bathroom, curled up on the toilet, and screaming. My dad runs out, and I'm screaming at him, please don't spank me, because that's what normally would happen. And he came in, grabbed me, held me, and I told him what I saw as best as I could, and he says, I know, son, I know. I saw it too. That was my first real ghost experience.
Whoa, he did see it too?
Yeah, well, to pass by, his room was to the left of my room. And yeah, so I guess they were coming out the wall in the hallway, walking past his door and my door before they went downstairs. And he saw it, I saw it, terrified me. And the looks of their clothes, never hit. The uniforms they wore the long with the musket, or not musket, but it had a long, not sword, but knife, bayonet at the tip of it. And they were marching with the little cap hats down the stairs. I had never seen that uniform a day in my life, and I won't forget it. And the last guy walking into my room, yeah.
Did you have more experiences?
Yeah. I've had one, I guess more recent, when within the past 15 years or so, I was working at a gun range called Rifles Only. It's a big precision rifle training facility. And me and one of the instructors, his name's Win, and we're driving down this dirt road to get to where the facility is. It's at nighttime. We had just gotten back from the bar. I wasn't drinking. I was designated driver, but I was sitting passenger seat. But regardless, we're driving, and I hear, it sounded like a radio came on, the static, and I heard this old lady chuckling, laughing, and saying something. I couldn't understand what she was saying, but it sounded like it was in the floorboard. That's what it sounded like. And I look at him, and he looks over at me, and it completely won't stop. He looks over at me, and he's like, did you hear? And I'm like, dude, you heard that, right? And he's like, it's my radio. He had an old pickup truck. The wires are all over the place, and it's an old beat up pickup truck. Radio does not work. And we just kind of ignored it after that. Never talked about it. He didn't want to believe it, but we both heard what we heard. It was an old lady in the floorboard talking. I don't know what she was saying. So old lady. If you're out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Damn.
But that's my experience.
Let's go back to childhood. So you grew up in a haunted house in Maryland.
Yep. And it was built on a cemetery. That was like pretty much. And as a kid, I remember. Okay, so this is the weird portion. My mom, her side of the family, my grandmother, they've been introduced like voodoo or magic. And I knew this trick as a kid of how to listen to hell with the sewing needle and a cup and, to listen to the screams of hell. I don't know if I never heard anything, but you hear, I think it's just the echo inside the cup. But we would leave a devil pie for the devil or whatever. We would make it out of mud and stuff like that. Me and my next door neighbor, Kia and Tasha, 2 girls, and we were doing stuff like that as kids, like weird stuff like that. My sister, another scary story for you. We hear a knock on the door, or she did, and she goes to the back door, and there's 2 women standing there in all white. There's no white people where we live at. There's 2 blonde hair. She's standing at the door. They took her to the playground, and when she came back, she learned how to make where you take a gallon of milk, cut it out to make a bird feeder. And she came back with that, and the ladies taught her how to make it, but there were no ladies. So, yeah, that was another incident. I don't know if she knows that one vividly.
Very strange.
That. Yeah.
Very strange. How many siblings did you have?
At that time, living with us, we had 3. So me, my younger sister, and my older sister. And I have another sister I just found out about like a year ago. And my brother, I thought was my friend when I first met him. And I thought that this kid was cool, but turned out he was my brother too. So I have, that I know of, 5.
Holy shit.
Yeah. My dad was getting around, man. He was getting around.
Right on. Let's go back. So you grew up around voodoo?
I knew about it. Like different spells and stuff that.
There was this 18-year-old girl named Bella. Spent a lot of time, hiking in the woods, and something hits her in the head. She finds it's a dead animal. Heber's head appeared to have been surgically removed. Fresh. The head is stitched onto its paws, positioned in somewhere in her periphery. She hears a bell, and this tall, dark figure walks out from behind a tree. This bell that's attached to its hip. Police went out there. They found one of Bella's shirts that she hadn't brought out there. It was folded up and left under a rock. In June of 2019, there was this 18-year-old girl named Bella, and she had just wrapped up her first year in college, and she gets back home, and one of the first things she does is she's like, I'm gonna go hike out to the man-made lake, do the thing I love so much growing up. And so she parks, she gets out, she starts this hike, she goes through the woods, she reaches the stream, she's walking along, and everything's going great. But when she's maybe 45 minutes or so, or an hour into the hike, she hasn't seen anybody, it's daytime, she starts to hear something. And at first she can't even tell what it is, but she's truly in the middle of the forest, and there's nobody around. Bell. But it wasn't very loud. I mean, it was loud enough that she hear it clearly, but she couldn't tell if it was a big cowbell-sized bell, or if it's a little bell, or if it's on a church steeple somewhere, but she's like, there aren't any churches anywhere near here. And so she stops, but as she's sitting there, listening to this bell, somewhere out there, it just stops. And so she had stopped there for at least a couple of minutes, and she heard it long enough that she experienced it, but then it just stopped. But she looks up ahead, and off to the side of this stream she's walking along, she sees something on the ground. She doesn't know what it is. And there's a little goat trail that follows the stream, and it's basically on the trail. And it's a dark mass that's on the ground. And so she walks up to it, there's no ground, the bell sound's gone, and she finds it's an animal. It's a dead animal. It's a beaver. And at first, animals die out here. There are animals out here. She wasn't over that. As she got close to it, she realized that its head was gone. Its head was missing, which again, in the wild, it happens, animal predation, it is what it is. But she quickly noticed the beaver's head appeared to have been almost like surgically removed. That the cut across its neck looked so clean that like a butcher had made it with a knife. Like this was not, an animal shredding the beaver apart. This was a tool was used to head off. And so that goes through her head. So the first thing she thinks after that is, that's weird, but she kicks it with her foot and she feels it's kind of like still, it's not rigid yet. Rigor mortis hasn't set in. And she's thinking, oh my gosh, I've stumbled across some other predator's prey. They were in the process of like maybe eating this thing, heard me, and it's scattered. It's fresh and she doesn't smell like decomposing or anything. And so she starts to worry that there's like, some, knife wielding bear or something in the wool, or whatever. She doesn't know what it is, but there's some predator nearby that's like killed this beaver. But again, she's thinking it's weird. Its head has been removed so surgically. But after a minute or two, she just kind of convinces herself that like, you know what, I'm in the wild. It's a dead animal in the wild. Yeah, it's weird, but not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And so she just decides to walk on and just forget about the beaver. And so she walks the next 15 minutes or so. She meets the east to west running river. She turns, she follows the east to west running river to the man-made lake. She has a nice time, sightseeing and doing exactly what she wanted to do. And then, at a certain point, she turns around and retrace her steps. And so she walks back along the river. She turns, she gets back on the stream. And as she's walking, 15 minutes goes by. There's the predator has not come back to claim it. No one seems to have claimed it. It's just, it's just here. I think that was a little bit odd. Like if something killed it, it probably would have taken it by now. But either way, it's still here. Walks past the beaver carcass and just continues her walk all the way, the hour and a half from there, all the way back to the road. She gets in her car, she drives home. Overall, successful day. Weird bell, fine. Weird beaver, fine. But overall, normal day. So she's at home for the next week and she visits her family and she, does all these different things. But after a week goes by, she's sort of bored. She's home, the novelty of being home from college is sort of worn off and she's sort of bored. And on a night, this is a week after this trip she's just been on, it's a night, she's at her house and just bored and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to the man-made lake. I just love it out there. I love hiking. I'm gonna go for a hike. However, remember it takes 2 hours just to get to the lake and then however long you're gonna be there and then 2 hours to get back. And that's assuming no setbacks at all. And she decides to head out at like 5, 6 o'clock at night. And, sundown, I think, was 8 o'clock that night. So basically, if she rushed, I think it was 9 o'clock, she basically had 3 hours until sundown. It takes 4 hours to do it. And so she was like, I'll hustle in there, I'll see the lake, and I'll hustle back, and it'll just be like sort of a exercise than sightseeing, if anything. And she's done this hike so many times that she's not concerned about doing the trip. She's done this 100 times. She knows exactly what she's doing. But in addition to it getting dark out, there was a storm in the area. Hadn't started raining yet, but there was a chance of a thunderstorm that. And so, I don't know if her parents or loved ones encouraged her not to go, but somehow or another, she did tell her parents that she was going to go and do this hike, 6 o'clock at night. And basically she said, I'm going to be quick about it. And so she leaves her house. And she drives over to the same, drop-off spot. She gets out, and it's starting to get dark, but not dark yet. She hikes into the forest, and she starts walking, and she gets to the stream, and she's walking along the stream, making good time. Everything's fine. There's nothing weird happening, and she gets all the way up to where the beaver is, and sure, the beaver it's still there. And in fact, it looked like it was decomposing somewhat, it had decomposed the amount you would expect. It sort of looked like it's been sitting here this whole time. She's thinking it's still odd that no one's claimed it. Nothing has claimed it, but either way, here it is. By the time she reaches the beaver, though, it's starting to get dark out, which was expected, but also it's starting to rain. And the beaver is about 45 minutes from the lake. It's 15 minutes to the river, 30 minutes to the there. And so it's starting to get dark. It's starting to rain. And so she's sort of reached a point at the beaver where she needs to make a decision. Am I going to keep going or not? And she decides that, you know what, screw it. I'm going to keep going. I'm so close. When I get there and I'll turn around. From the beaver, she starts hustling, practically running to the river. But the sky, it really just like opens. It's like thunderstorm, lightning. It's completely downpouring. It still makes that turn at the east-west river. And she's like running, you know, trying to get to the man-made lake. But she's realizing, like, what am I doing this for? It's becoming pretty dangerous what I'm doing. You know, it's over an hour's hike back. I could fall, I could get hurt, like, not worth it. And what's the point to just say I went to the lake? So she gets east-west river before she's like, okay, I'm just gonna then turn around, retrace my steps and head back home. So she found, it's literally just pure downpour at this point, and it's basically dark as it is right now. And so she goes back to where the river meets with the stream. She turns, and as she's going along the stream now, the long straightaway that'll bring her, you know, the hour and a half all the way back to her car, as she's on that path, when she turns onto it, it's raining so hard and it's so dark that she's basically looking straight down because she doesn't want to trip. You know, it's rocky, that's not really a real path, it's wet. And so she's hustling, and she's got her head down, and she's avoiding falling this whole time. And she gets to where the beaver is. But she's not thinking that. She just gets to the point where the beaver is, and she's moving along as fast and as carefully as she can. And at some point, something hits, and she just like stops, and she looks up, and it's the beaver. The beaver is strung from a branch, suspended over the trail. It was tied up, basically hovering over the trail, like a trap you'd walk into, and its head back. But the head is stitched onto its paws, positioned to its body like this.
Holy shit.
And it's decomposing, and so it's like slimy and gross, and she's walked square into it. Think about the implication here. When she came through 15 minutes ago, the dead beaver was right there on the ground. She's only been gone for like 15 minutes or so, and it's dark out, it's thunder and lightning out. She's over an hour away from her car, in the middle of the forest, and this dead beaver is now suspended above the trail. It had to have happened in the last 15 minutes. And as she is figuring out what she's going to do, from somewhere in her periphery, she hears a bell. It begins to ring in the forest right near her. It's the same bell she heard a week ago. She has no idea the connection, but it's undeniable that this is so horrifying. She immediately goes into this mindset of like, I can't run. Because if I try to run from here, I'm going to panic. I'm too far away to run. I have to like stay composed. And she sidesteps the dangling carcass with its head, doing her best not to panic that clearly somebody's watching this. Someone's watching, dark enough that she really can't see into the forest, and she's hearing this bell sort of off in the distance as it seems to be moving closer to her. She walks past the carcass, and she starts basically speed walking, but controlled, you know, back towards her car. And after maybe 15 steps, the bell sound starts getting louder and louder and louder. Something is sort of crashing through the woods behind her. But she's so scared, she doesn't want to turn around and look, and starts walking faster and faster along this trail. And with every step that she goes faster, this bell gets louder and louder. And it's like every step of whatever's behind her is getting louder and louder. Branches are falling. Something clearly is trailing her. And essentially she just full-blown panics. And she just starts fucking hauling ass down this stream. She's running as fast as she can, and the whole time there's this bell and crashing, it's raining, it's thundering and lightning. She has no idea what's going on. All she knows is there's something that is chasing her through the forest at this point, and it is like adrenaline mode, running as fast as she can. And as she's running, she pulls out her phone and she calls her dad, but he doesn't pick up. She puts her phone back, she's still running. And eventually she just trips after like running as fast as she can. She trips and face plants on the trail, hits her head pretty good. And as soon as she falls, you know, she can hear the rain and thunder and lightning, but whatever was behind her stopped. Bell stopped, everything stopped. She's just laying there, she's totally out of breath, but she kind of gets herself up. She hasn't turned around yet. She's still just like on the ground looking this way. And she knows that she's so far from her car at this point. Like, she has to just turn around and see what's to look. Like, she's too far. She's not going to make it. Whatever it is, it's right behind her. And so she kind of composes herself a little bit. She's totally out of breath. And she turns around. And behind her, it's like, there's not much of a trail, but there's the trail she'd been running to the stream. And there's a little bit of a clearing where she's looking. And there's a little bit of moon coming through. And she's looking back basically out towards just a bunch of trees and a little bit of a clearing. And there's nothing there. There's nothing in the clearing. And for a second, she's thinking it's all in my head. And then she's thinking, a bell on me, that's the sound it's been making? Have I been making this in my head? But then somewhere off in the woods, she hears the bell ring. And this tall, dark figure walks out from behind a tree and stands in the middle of the and looks at her. And she sees there's this bell that's attached to its hip. Every step it's taking, that's the sound of the bell, is this enormous creature that's, charging through the woods. And so she doesn't even know what it is. She doesn't know if it's human. She doesn't know what's going on, but she just gets up, turns, and just keeps on running. She pulls out her phone, and this time when she calls her dad picks up. And so she's charging through the woods. Her dad's in the she's screaming at him, like, come to the pickup point. Someone's chasing me through the woods. And she's running along, and the dad, instinctively knows. Clearly there's something going on. He and his wife hop in the car, speed out to that where her car was, where their daughter's car was. And the whole time, Bella's charging through the woods. This thing's chasing her with the bell. And when the parents actually got to the pickup point, they've been on the phone with Bella the whole time. She's been screaming and crying into the phone. And she would keep saying to them on the phone, Bella, that it has a bell. Can you hear the bell? Almost to prove that it was actually real. This thing was really happening. And the parents would later say they could actually hear in the woods this bell just chiming through the woods. Their daughter's being chased by whatever this thing is. And so the dad, he's like, where are you? And she's just running through the woods. He eventually just runs in after her, and he practically collides with her. She's 15 minutes away. He runs into her. He grabs her. He turns around without even looking and basically runs her out of the woods. They jump into the car, and they drive off. And there's nothing there as they're peeling away. Whatever it was, they couldn't even see it. And so the Bella and her family, they're she's so upset. They don't even know what to ask her. What the hell happened? They go straight to the police station because they don't know what else to do. They don't know what to make of this. They don't know how real this really was. They go to the police station, and the police are like, all right, we'll take a look. We don't know what to make of this either. And so the following day, right out, the police went out there to go search the woods, which, there really shouldn't be any out there. And they couldn't find anything. They found one of Bella's shirts that she hadn't brought out there. It was folded up and left under a rock.
She had not brought out there.
It was just out in the middle of the woods. And so she has not returned since. And so that is the Bell story.
What the This old, Civil War cabin out in this area called College. I woke up in the middle of the night and I just kept hearing this banging on the roof. We start hearing footsteps. This shit's on camera. Wound up being mine while I'm and you just see my face go I look at him and Adam and I'm like, did you guys just hear that? Dude. We've had some stuff happen.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had Tim, who's on behind one of these cameras here. He was there for it. Elijah, he's upstairs. He was there for it. So before I did the podcast thing, I was basically throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck because I was so tired of tactics. And I was just done with it. And so one of my ideas was, I know we're going to do this reality TV survival scenario series or whatever, right? So first one I did was Tim was there. Like I said, Elijah was there. Tim was one of the contestants. It was hey, you got $50 or $100 or something. End of the world's happening. We're going to Bass Pro, and you have to buy everything that you would need to survive on a time limit. So with this cabin, this old Civil War cabin out in this area called College Grove. It's 20 minutes from here. And but this is Franklin, this area, this is front lines civil. There's a lots of Confederate Union cemeteries around, lots of buildings where that were shot up floor, lots of ghost stuff around here. There's ghost tours all around. Anyways, we go to this old cabin, a little bit of a backstory. So it took my wife and I over a year to find a place to live here. And when we were moving up from Florida, kept getting outbid by Californians. This is like the big migration.
Really?
And we just couldn't afford it. And so I had looked at my wife and I was like, I'm getting tired of putting in offers on houses and getting outbid. Like, it's just, the shit's getting depressing. This is our 7th trip up here. Let's just go camping out in the woods, enjoy Tennessee for the rest of this trip, and then we'll go and find some place to move in Florida that's out of it. So we go to this cabin, rent it. It's awesome. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in this cow pasture, like out in the rolling hills. Family owns it. It's an Airbnb. Family owns it. That's who knows? The farm has been in their family for generations. I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. It's like one of those old school log homes, And I woke up and I woke up in the middle and I just kept hearing this banging on the roof. And I'm like, what? Wake Katie up and I'm like, what is that? Nothing. She didn't hear anything. She's like, maybe it was a squirrel. I'm like, no, there's no squirrel that makes this sound on the roof. And and I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I had it or something, but who knows? I don't really think much of it. Fast forward a couple of years, we're out there at this event. We're doing the survival series. And so we set up this cabin and we put, the Vigilance Elite sign up and for some branding, and we're getting it ready to shoot the debrief because we're going to grab all the shit from Bass Pro, come back. They're going to present and grade the 2 contestants. And we're like trying to pin the sign and we're plugging in these lamps and trying to build this, kind of a set. And none of the electrical's making sense, but it doesn't hit me. I'm like, that's weird. I plugged the sign in here. Doesn't work. Plug the lamp in. Does work. The sign in over there. Does, and it's just weird electrical shit going on, but I don't really think anything of it. So we go out, go to Bass Pro. Bass Pro's probably an hour. We do the exercise, come back. They're presenting all this stuff, like stuff that they bought with the budget. and only rented the Airbnb for what it was like for the day. And, we're in the middle of this debrief. We're supposed to be up by 6 p.m. I'm like facing the window. A similar cabin, sounds like very similar to what you were in. Everything, it's one big room, right? Kitchen's in the room, dining room's in the room, TV, fireplace. And then there's a spiral staircase that goes up to a loft. But the loft isn't enclosed. You could lean over you could see downstairs. So it's all one big room minus the bathroom. Little table set up, and we start hearing footsteps. Oh. And I thought the footsteps were outside. This shit's on camera.
Oh, really?
We're filming this stuff. Yeah, there's a video up on our channel that shows this. So you see me in the debrief, and these are talking, and you just see my face all of a sudden, and I like go like this. I'm looking out the front door, but I see I thought I saw somebody else's reflection, but it wound up being mine while I'm here. And you just see my face go like, what the fuck? And then the reflection turns into my reflection, but on the camera, footsteps were upstairs. I thought it was it was a wooden porch out there. It's past 6. Figure this is probably, the owner's coming to say, hey guys, we got a wedding coming up tomorrow. You got to get the hell out of here.
Oh my God.
We pull the camera footage. Then I look up, all 3 of us that are on camera all look up at the exact same time, and you hear these fucking footsteps. and I look at him and Adam and I'm like, did you guys just fucking hear that? My wife was there. Elijah was there behind the camera. We had a marketer there that was behind. Every single person in the room is looking up going, What the fuck that? We packed the shit up. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like right now, fuck this. We're not even going to finish. Get out of here. So we load up all the camera shit, load up the microphones, put the furniture back. I can't even remember. Did we go upstairs and even look?
Upstairs to get one of the lights.
He goes, yeah. So we pack all this shit. Dude, I did not even want to look at the cabin because there's a top in the loft, which is where like the bedroom is, where me and my wife were sleeping when I heard the banging on the roof. There's a window and you have to close this gate. I'm not even fucking looking in that damn window. I don't give a shit. I have guns. It's not going to kill whatever's up there. Like, oh my God. So we hightail it back to my house, immediately pull the footage. Let's see what that shit was. On the footage, if I remember correctly, you do not hear footsteps. Do you remember this? Do you hear the footsteps? We have it. We'll pull it. But yeah, you're right. Every time there's a footstep, you can hear the static in the camera. So it'll be like,
God.
I call my best friend. We're all blown. We're like, holy shit, there's a fucking ghost in there. And I call my best friend later that night and I'm like, hey, John, check this shit out. Listen, what do you think of this? I tell him the whole story. He goes, pull up the Airbnb, pull it up right now, and just see what the reviews say. Like, oh, great idea. We pull up the fucking reviews, dude, and it is, don't bang on the walls, they bang back, don't show up after dark because the entire place comes alive. It was just review after review after review of people's haunted stories in that cabin. Haven't met there since.
Holy shit,
fuck
dude.
that. Like,
dude, that's crazy.
I know. I could have swore I told you this. I may have told you this on the last episode. Because I was like, we should do John's episode at that fucking cabin when you came here. But dude, yeah,
the
true
fact
story.
that there were those views, that's crazy.
It's wild, dude. When this comes, we'll put the footage in the episode so you can see it.
That's nuts. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, but I believe in paranormal stuff. It scares the shit out of me still today at 43 years old.
That would be, feel like, oh, maybe it was something, maybe it was this, but then to see the review, that's what confirms your night.
Dude. Yep.
That's the thing.
More for you. I'll tell you.
I'd love to hear it.
I'll tell you tonight at the campfire session.
Yeah.
But, well, hey, man, really appreciate all the stories. Dude. And it's good to get in the Halloween spirit a couple days beforehand. So thank you for coming.
For the SIG, dude. You can.
Hey, let's go burn it down real. This goes way.
Yep.
filter. G. Bigelow. It leaps in. Surrounded by observations. Doing rigorous in 1996 that continued on for years. And of course, years later, the events, the activity, the investigation at Skinwalker Ranch was brought to the attention of officials at the Pentagon. They had several visitors who had experiences, very compelling, undeniable experiences of paranormal activity. And that led to the Blackjet Pentagon funded program that involved ranch at its center, and the rest is history. But by 2013, that program had ceased for various reasons. Mr. Bigelow was actively engaged with growing his aerospace company and jumping into the private space race, as we discussed. And the ranch, to a degree, at the time, I was led to believe that it was because Mr. Bigelow was just buried, was very busy with getting his beam modules and his space habitats up in orbit and ultimately on the moon and Mars, which I believe was true. But also, I've learned he ascribed negative events afflicting his family to really his ownership of the ranch.
Really?
Mr. Bigelow blamed the ranch for dark, disturbing events that happened in their lives. And it's not my story. It's been told by others in the media and advisors. Owning the ranch was not a positive experience for him.
Even before him, though, this went back to Native American tribes. I mean, even in the show,
Yeah.
I believe he, correct me if I'm wrong, are they hydroglyphs? Is that what you call it?
Petroglyphs. So
Petroglyph.
there's, we have a megalithic site there as well that we've investigated in the area. But there's a lot of rock art and evidence of the ancients, of the Native Americans working on the property. There's also a strange Masonic symbol that is etched into the face of the mesa that many claimed symbolizes as above, so below. There are a lot of things relative to history that are intriguing and a little bit ambiguous, but the Native American history, the tradition, and the fact that the Navajo tribe cursed this property as a result of with the Ute tribe and the federal government is something that has been confirmed over and over by members of the community, by elders, And the ridge that runs the expanse of the property, that mesa plateau or that ridge, has been referred to as Skinwalker Ridge for a very long time. In fact, when the big team first descended on the property and set up their investigation and heard the accounts of, the curse, the Skinwalker curse, and the lore that surrounded this property, it ultimately was referred to as Skinwalker Ranch, as to the Utah Ranch. For a period of time, it was just simply the Utah Ranch or the Bigelow Ranch in Utah, and then took on the idea of Skinwalker Ranch as they just simply started referring to the property as such, as a result of the Native American.
What is a skinwalker?
A skinwalker is a shape-shifting demonic entity. It's essentially a Native American witch or warlock that sells their soul in exchange for immortality, the ability to take on the skin or shape-shift, oftentimes in the form of a dire wolf or a werewolf-like creature. It can also take on the shape of other animals as well. And it's a topic that I found the American community likes to stay away from. They don't like to even say the name Skinwalker is negative.
Okay.
And it's a key part of their cultural tradition and history. Skinwalkers to the Native Americans in the Uinta Basin are just as real as this bottle of Diet Mountain Dew. It's a very real part of their culture.
She starts having this unbelievably vivid dream. They have this crown of thorns that they're digging into her scalp, and it feels so real. She just lets out this horrible scream, and then she wakes up. The girl next to her turns on a light. And when she does, she's like, "Oh my God, Bella, we have to get you to the hospital." And they're like, "What happened to you?" Like, nobody knew what happened to her. Well, it would turn out what really happened to her.
Are you serious?
Her dream.
Whoa. Whoa.
So Bella, she grew up in Germany, in this like quaint little village in Germany, and growing up, a big part of her childhood is she went to summer camp. Like, it was a sleepaway camp, for a couple of weeks in the summer. All her friends went, and it was right near their village out in the forest. And it was like, it almost felt like a theater camp. They'd go and they'd sleep away, and there'd be games and stuff. But they'd also put on performances and like plays and stuff. But it was like a really big part of her childhood. And then after being a camper, it was pretty common for folks to become camp counselors, especially in their college years. And that was sort of the cycle of life of this camp. And so Bella, she was about to go to college. It was her senior year, summer, before she's college, and she had reached the age where she couldn't be a camper anymore, nor did she really want to be. It was her first year of being a counselor. And she was actually really excited at the prospect of being a counselor, because this is, again, like something that matters a lot to her, and all her friends to be counselors as well. And so summer, on the start of the camp, she and the rest of the counselors showed up early, and they helped set up all the different little cabins in the woods. There's like a little lake nearby, and they set up all the different like stations the kids would be playing at over the week. She helped prep the camp. And then the kids finally arrived on the first day, and all these happy little kids running around, and Bella and all the counselors. It was great. They got to like give these kids the experience that they had growing up, and it was a multi-camp. And then at night, on this first night, after the kids all were ushered into their various cabins and were finally asleep, it was tradition amongst the counselors, especially I guess on the first night of camp, to actually not sleep in the cabin with the kids, to like put the kids to bed, and then the counselors, they go out in the woods, they basically party and then crash in the woods. It's like great for the kids. So they abandoned the children in the cabin. But they, so the kids are all in their cabin, and he and the other counselors, they head out into the woods. And so the cabins where the kids are, it's all been cleared. And so they barely go into the tree line, and they set up their cots and their tents and stuff. And, Bella was having a great time. Everyone's like having some drinks. They're just like laughing. At a certain point, they had enough fun, and they decided it was time to go to sleep. And so Bella eventually, alongside many other counselors, falls asleep. And she starts having this unbelievably vivid dream. She dreams that she's in this like, almost like an apocalypse scene, where she's looking out at this city skyline, but all the buildings are sort of like deteriorating, and the ground is mostly sand. Like it's almost like you're out in the desert, and there's like this city in the middle of the desert, but instead of it being an oasis, it's like whatever the opposite of an oasis is, like crumbling, death, destruction. And standing sort of shoulder to shoulder in front of the city skyline, but pretty far away from her, is, imagine like back in the day when armies used to stand and face each other and fight hand-to-hand combat. They would like line up and charge at each other. She was looking for me of people standing there, not moving, staring up at, they were poised to attack her or something. And as she's staring at this sort of apocalypto scene, she realizes that two people standing on either side of her, one on either side of her. It's these really big guys that are on either side of her. And she doesn't really know what they're doing, but she's not paying attention to them. And as she's staring at the people out in front of her, she notices they start to move towards her. They're like walking towards her. And then eventually when they get close enough, she's staring at their faces, and they all have like these horrible expressions on. They look terrifying. Like their eyes are wide, their mouths are like bleeding. It's like this horrifying thing. But as she's staring at this sea of people towards her, the guys on either side of her, they turn looking at her now. They're both like basically looking at each other with her in the middle. And she realizes she can't move. She's like frozen. And so she can't even turn her head, but she's sort of looking out of the corner of her eyes at these two huge guys that are not really looking at her. They're kind of looking at each other, across from them. And then they pick something up sort of next to her, and they raise it up over her head. So both men are holding on to something that's situated above Bella's head, but she can't look up at it. She's just sort of obliquely aware that they're holding something over her head. And as she's like sort of dreading whatever's going to happen next, they begin to lower their arms. And then whatever they have, it touches her head, and immediately Bella feels this blinding, shooting pain in her head. And it feels so real. It's almost like she can feel it in real life. It's like she swears she's dreaming, but this feels so real. And it dawns on her finally that she kind of looks up and she sees blood is sort of trickling down her face, that they have this crown of thorns that they're digging into her scalp, and they're pulling it into her scalp, and it's like excruciating for her. And finally, when she begins to be able to move her body again, right as she does, she just lets out this horrible scream. She wakes up and she sits up and she's totally like God, like I'm okay. That was a fucking horrible dream. I'm okay. And she's just sitting there, and because when she sat up, she'd made some noise. One of the people next to her, one of the counselors who was asleep, they woke up too, and they're like, Bella, are you okay? Are you okay? It's dark. They can't see anything. She can hear Bella breathing heavily, and she's like, I had a horrible dream. I don't know. And so the girl next to her, the other counselor, she turns on a light, and she shines it at Bella. And when she does, she's like, oh my God, Bella, we have to get you to the hospital. And Bella's like, what's going on? And she reaches up, and she realizes her head is bleeding profusely. And she's like, what is on here? And so like immediately everybody wakes up, like, let's go. Grab Bella, they throw her in a car, and they rush her to a hospital. Bella has no idea what's going on. They get there, like she had to get all these stitches to her head, and they're like, what happened to you? Like nobody knew what happened to her. She's like, I was having this dream, and it's like weirdly connected to this. Well, it would turn out what really happened to her, that they would later discover after people came forward with what they saw at night, other counselors, when she fell asleep, a fox with rabies walked into the camp, was eating her scalp.
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
With her dream.
Holy shit.
And so when she got to they treated her for rabies immediately because they didn't know what it was. But sure enough, the story got out to other counselors. One of the other counselors was like, yeah, there was a fox that kept coming back over to us, and I kept having to shoo it away. And so the only explanation is while she was laying there, the fox was eating her.
Whoa. Whoa.
So yeah, I talked to her. She came out to a book signing and like signed a book.
No kidding?
Of her story, yeah. Yeah. Can't tell though. You can't tell.
Dude, whoa.